I don't have time for this bullshit.
Ha! Bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. All this guy ever does is BS. Anyway, it's time for another edition of BSing with Big Nate.
Welcome into another edition of BSing with Big Nate. Once again, joined by Trey of Seer. They've been working on a project, sort of. Not working on a project, sort of. I'm going to call it a project because they're going back and looking through their previous EPs and kind of remastering, re-releasing. And coming up on the 15th of this month, Silent Convictions is coming back, if you will. So, Trey, first of all, thank you for joining me. Second of all,
thanks for having me. I'm always happy to be here.
How does it feel going back in time and looking at this one?
Well, this go around, man, it's a little different than Echoes of Eternity. I think that whenever we first visited that one, there was a little bit of nostalgia, obviously. There was a lot of really beautiful, solid moments. I think that when I look back on Silent Convictions, it's not exactly the same. It's actually a lot darker, and there's something really peculiar about 2018, man. Like that whole year, everything that transpired that year, it's just so many crazy things. But one of the things that we're going to get really personal with this re-release is that whenever we started Echoes of Eternity, I had got admitted myself into counseling. And while we were doing the Silent Convictions, doing the sessions for that, I was in the midst of it. So there was a lot of really, you had to air out a lot of really uncomfortable things. And all of that was kind of what poured into all of the songs. So looking back on it, there's just a lot of bitterness to it, but I also feel like there's also a lot of, there's a lot more perspective on it, not just from from an emotional standpoint, but even from production wise, everything that we had did back then as opposed to what we're working with now, it's like night and day. You're going to notice like so much more life in a lot of these songs. So we're really excited to get this one out, more in particular than probably any other release, because this is probably our most aggressive and our most just raw. Like this is us in our rawest form. So I can't wait for people to hear it.
So it's interesting you say that. I was wondering if it was just me, but I love Echoes. I'm going to go ahead and say it. Echoes is my favorite in comparison to Silent Convictions. That being said, Silent Convictions is definitely a close second. When I listen to that original release, like you said, it's much more raw, much more aggressive. Echoes kind of had a lot more atmosphere, and this to me feels like getting a lot out, like you mentioned, and I think that's incredibly important. To kind of have that outlet. Of course, right now you're going back and re-looking at everything. Is there anything that stands out to you now? You're like, man, I don't know if we did that right, or things that you would have changed now.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I think one of the things that I really wish I would have paid more attention to was the post-production end of things. At that point, it was kind of just like a second thought. And unfortunately, I felt like we kind of suffered on that. As far as the mixing goes, man, I feel pretty proud of the mixes that we had started, or excuse me, the mixes that we had done at that point. Granted, you know, we were still in the learning phase in a lot of those. So I think that I think maybe the first half of Selling Convictions, I just noticed that certain parts shouldn't, excuse me, certain parts don't hit as hard as they should have. And I think that little things like that, I think that was what kind of led to us sort of taking a look back at all of these old recordings and sort of seeing like there's so much potential in all of the music that we've written, but sometimes it doesn't get a fair shake. Sometimes it doesn't make a great first impression, depending on how you mix it and how you present it to, you know, the audience and whatnot. So I think that's why, once again, it was very important for us to really take a good hard look back one more time and make sure that we nailed everything right. So yeah, we're definitely covering all bases on this end for sure.
I love that mentality because to me, so I'm going to compare this to the business world, which is really kind of a terrible thing to do with music. But you take your resume, whether or not you're searching for a new job, you kind of take your resume and look at it once a year, make sure it's up to date.
Right.
And I love, I mean, granted, 2018, not that long ago, but
No.
the growth, I mean, even looking in my personal life, the growth I've had in the last 4 or 5 years has been insane. I look back at stuff I did. Of course, for my primary focus would be audio production for radio and graphics and stuff. And it's like, man, I just kind of didn't have it all together, and I wish I would have paid more attention to this and that. So I love that, looking back, kind of like a retrospective and kind of, you know, giving everything a brush up.
Yeah, I mean, and there's little nuances that you never realized that made such a big part of it or whatever. But then you put every single little one of those together, and eventually it just makes such a much more detailed scale, you know, thing. And I think that's kind of where we're at, is that you're starting to notice other little details. And I think that's what goes up, you know, like how they say a little bit goes a long way. I feel like that's kind of what that's what they were talking about. So it's really cool to see that now, you know, been doing it for so long. So yeah, for sure.
That's the other thing I really like that you guys did with Echoes of Eternity, and you're going to continue to do is, you know, it's something that, as much as they say video killed the radio star, there is a certain visual aspect to music, and there's that behind the story aspect that you guys really seem to appreciate, and I enjoy. Of course, you had your special with Echoes of Eternity, and you're working on one for Silent Convictions. What can we expect from this one in comparison to the last one?
Oh, that's a good question. It's going to be a lot more grittier. Uh, it's kind of cool because when we initially were filming footage for our first home video, I don't think at the time, I kind of had a different idea of how I wanted to present it. I wanted to present it like as a whole thing, like just like an hour-long movie or whatever. And then I kept cutting it down, and then I started looking at the way that, if we're going to be business-like, the way content was being presented and the way that people were able to consume it and whatnot, it just made more sense to sort of cut it down into bite-sized pieces. And then if people liked a little bit here and there, then eventually they could take like a whole thing if they wanted to. So because of that, our whole trip, whenever me and Cameron actually went back to our hometown and all that, like it's just kind of crazy the way it all worked out. But you will see a continuation of that. You will see it's just everything's just really stripped back, man. I feel like for this one, because the music was just so raw, because we didn't really focus on dynamics, and we didn't really focus on, like you said, like the atmosphere and what was going on around us. It was more just like down in the dirt and just underneath all the gritty stuff and whatnot. So I think that you're going to see a reflection of that in this special coming up. It's not going to, I mean, I don't want to say it's going to be what's the word, like doom and gloom, but there is going to be a certain darkness, I feel like, that you'll take from it. But I think that's also the reason that also plays into the concept, you know. And even throughout all the darkness, there is still that, you know, that little ray of light, that little beam of hope that gleams up ahead. So, you know, it's kind of just it's all going to tie in with the story. So yeah.
So to those of you watching the teaser at the beginning, of course they did a tease for Echoes of Eternity as well. But this one, watching it, it very much so, like, there's that part where it starts strobing and then it like goes into you yelling. It
Yeah,
very
yeah.
much so felt like a trailer for a horror movie almost. It's definitely very gritty. So I'm really excited to see the final product. I'm really excited to hear the final product. But I see what you're saying, and there's a lot to look forward to there. I think, to me, with music, some of the more raw stuff stands out much more. Like I mean, I feel like we talk about it every time.
Yeah, oh yeah.
But Corn, when those moments when Jonathan Davis, or another one I think of is Disturbed. Was it Down with the Sickness? The one where it has like that whole breakdown about
Yeah.
the abusive relationship with his mother.
Yeah. 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 I
Those
know what you're
moments
talking
to
about.
me
Yeah, yeah.
like always stand out. And I don't know why. It's like some sort of weird shared trauma.
No, I get it, man. And then, yeah, I mean, I know we have talked about this before, but I think that's what ultimately connected me to music, was that every time I would hear it, you could almost just feel it. You felt it within yourself. And I think that's the kind of stuff that moves me when I listen to music. And that's kind of what I try to pour into, what I do. And that's kind of the thing, man. When it comes down to the music, when it comes down to the videos, like I'm just that kid, man, that grew up listening and watching and being inspired by all of that. And I mean, it's not necessarily anything different or new or revolutionary. This is stuff that I grew up loving, and this is what inspired me. So I'm hoping that I can throw a little bit back into what I'm doing, and hopefully someone grabs something from it too. So yeah, man, and it's so amazing that um, we are kind of on the same wavelength, because that was kind of what I was going for with the teaser, was like I wanted like that little eerie, creepy, horror like just feel whenever you listen to it and you see it. And the fact that you said that, I was like, dude, I did. Yeah, like that's exactly what I was going for. So yeah.
No, I'm extremely excited. I do know, outside of Sincere, you've kind of been busy with some other stuff. I mean, you're busy with everything, but with some other stuff lately with some other musicians. What's been going on there?
Oh man, it's been amazing. That's another really cool thing about this year in particular, was that nothing was planned like that. It just kind of happened and unfolded the way it did. So I think like at the end of last year, I started a collaboration with some of the guys from Robot Gods, members of Ninth Revival and Ukrainium, and members of Demon Scar, Carmilla, and it kind of just became like this big group effort. And then once I was wrapping that up, me and my good friend Spike from Honeybone Rush, we kind of started already talking about collaborating as well. And then lo and behold, Petty Theft came out a couple months later. But it's just really wild, man. It's fun, like to just sort of expand those horizons and sort of just like play out of your comfort zone a little bit, because I don't know, I feel like that's truly how you grow, and that's how you become more versatile in the long run. And we have a lot more other collaborations coming up, at least 3 or 4 other bands. I don't want to give them all away, just because some of them like were really excited, and I don't want to give it away. And I'm sure they'd probably be upset if I said something. So just know that more collaborations are coming after we wrap up. The re-release of Silent Convictions. We will be putting out another collaborative single following that. So that'll be something else to look forward to. But yeah, I mean, as soon as I'm allowed to release info, man, you'll be the first to know. Trust me.
I mean, you're keeping us on our toes. There's a lot to be excited for. Give Sincere some love. Facebook, Twitter. Are you on Twitter? I keep saying Twitter.
Yeah, we're everywhere. Yeah, we're
I don't
all
know.
over the place,
Like, I think I'm just gonna like remove Twitter from that spiel. But Facebook, Instagram. Follow them on Spotify. Silent Convictions, of course, coming out the 15th. There's a physical release with this as well, correct? Is that going to be another limited run?
Yeah. We're only going to press about 100 copies, but yeah, the re-release will be available on physical CD as well. So if you would like a copy or reserve a copy or whatever, just hit us up on Twitter, Instagram. Those are like the 2 places we respond to the fastest. But yeah, just let us know.
All right, Trey, thanks for joining me. I'm looking forward to the 15th, and you and I will be in touch.
I appreciate it so much, man. Thank you always for having me on, man, and for your support, wearing the shirt, man, repping us, man. I always appreciate all the love and support from you and everyone else. Thank you guys so much.
I feel like a lot of people would make fun of me because it's one of those things. My wife always says it's whenever we go to a show, you're not supposed to wear the shirt for the band you're seeing. I don't really.
What? Really? That's what I always do. I've always done that.
I've always done that too. And
Yeah.
apparently it makes you a poser. I don't really give a shit.
What? That's crazy. I never heard that. Huh.
I want to show my support.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, and I love this shirt. So comfy. I may have to order another one from you.
Oh
pretty
yeah.
soon.
Oh yeah. And we will be working out a new design here pretty soon. So we'll have some more stuff on that end as well.
Excellent. Lots to look forward to. Talk to you later, Trey.
Take it easy, man.